죄송합니다. 제가 클리커를 깜빡하고 올라. 성도 여러분 안녕하십니까?
Happy Sabbath, everyone.
행복한 안식일입니다. 예배에 참여하신 모든 분들을 주님의 이름으로
I
환영합니다.
welcome all of you who is joining this worship.
무사히 잘 와주셔서 감사합니다.
And Deacon Kim, we
그리고
thank you for your safe travel.
예배할 수 있어서 진심으로 감사하고 환영합니다.
And we are happy to all worship together.
오늘은 기도주일 마지막 날이고요.
Today is the last day of our prayer week. And also we have a communion
오늘의
service.
예배가 단순히 형식을 넘어서 하나님의
And
사랑의
I pray
의미를 발견하고
that today's worship is not just a form,
내 안에 이렇게 잘
but I hope everyone realizes and remembers the meaning of God's love.
사랑이라는 주제는
The love,
너무나 아름답지만
it's a beautiful word,
너무나 다루기 어려운 주제입니다.
but also it's a little bit difficult to deal with
우리의 마음이 사랑에 너무 무뎌져 있기 때문이죠.
because our mind, we all became really dull.
내 안에 사랑이 없고 그것을 언어로 전달하는 데는 한계가 있기
And
때문입니다.
when we don't have the love in our
그럼에도
mind,
다시
it's
사랑을 이야기하는
hard
것은
to explain and
우리에게 주신
describe it
하나님의
in
말씀이
words.
그것을 끊임없이 계속해서 이해하고 있기 때문입니다. 우리가 계속해서 그 사랑을 이야기하고 나누고 알고자 할 때
And when we try to know that love and wanting to talk about it,
경험하는 데 있어 아주 예민한 감각을 갖게 될 것입니다.
we will have this keen sense of understanding the
내
love.
마음의 파도처럼 밀려와 우리를 채우는 그 사랑을 느끼게 될 것입니다.
And even the tiniest voice of the Lord will be able to fill us up like the waves in the oceans. So today, the scripture is John chapter 13.
말씀을 들으시면서 틈틈이 이 성경 중간중간 제가 다루지 않은 그 부분들도 함께 확인하시면 좀 좋을 것 같습니다.
And you can check in the Bible that I'm not talking about
오늘 요한복음
today.
13장에 보면 하나님이 예수님이 네 가지를 아신다. 네 가지.
And today's scripture, it says that Jesus knew four things.
자기가 세상을 떠나
Four
아버지께로 돌아가실 때가 이른 줄 아셨어요.
And first, he knew
어떤 분이신가?
the hour had come for him to leave this world
이때는 어떤
and go
때인가?
to the Father.
자신의 죽음과 부활의 때이죠.
And that's the time of his death and revival.
뿐만 아니라 세상의 모든 때도 아시는.
And also he knows all the timing
3절에 나옵니다.
of the word.
저녁 먹는 중 예수는
And the second thing is in verse 3, Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power,
예수님 이걸 아셨어요.
that he had come from God. And he knew that
자신에게 맡긴 것이.
Jesus, the Father, had put all things under Jesus' power.
하나님은 예수님을 이 땅에 보내셨습니다.
So God sent Jesus to this world to save the world. But it is not, though, that by just coming to this world that salvation is completed. Because Jesus needs to complete his mission, and the fate of the whole world depends on the choice of Jesus.
어떤 선택을 하느냐에 따라서
So dependent on Jesus' choice, the whole universe and the mankind's fate might be changing. He knew that. Also, Jesus knew that he came from the Father, that he is God himself, and that means he knew that he has the great power in him. And lastly, Jesus knew that who would betray him. That Jesus knew that one of his disciples would betray him eventually. And these are all the things Jesus knew, and
그것이 무엇인가 하면
And because he knew all these, he chose to do something, and it's in today's scripture.
예수님이 아셔서 선택하신 것, 다 알기 때문에 선택하신 것, 그것은 무엇인가 하면 끝까지
So
사랑하시는
what he chose to do, because he knew everything, was to love to the end. And the expression of that love was to get up in front of his disciples, take off his outer garment, and take a towel, wrap it around on his waist, and get the water in the bowl and washed the disciples'
끝까지
feet.
사랑하시기 위해서 그날 밤 선택하신 것,
What he chose to do, to love to the end,
이거 누가 하는 거냐면 종들이 하는 겁니다.
that's what he did.
먼지가 많은 중동 지역에
That's what usually the servants do. In the Middle East, there are a lot of dust, so at the feet gets dirty. So the servant, when people come to the house, they wash the guest's feet.
예수님이 일을 대신
So Jesus did that
세상의 모든
to
때를
his
아시는
disciples.
자신의 죽음이 눈앞에 놓여 있다는 것을 아시는 분이
The one who knew everything and the one who knew his death is right in front of him. And what he chose to do, because he knew, was to wash the disciples' feet.
알기 때문에 선택한 것.
And even though he knew one of them would betray him, he chose to wash his feet
발을 씻겨주는 것.
like a servant.
여러분은 예수님처럼 이러한 것들을 알고 계시다면 무엇을 선택하시겠습니까?
What if you know what's going to happen? What would you choose to do? If you knew that the house price would go up or go down,
떨어질 때를 안다면,
if you knew the stock price will go up or down, if you knew your fate,
내가 언제 죽을 것인지를
and if
안다면,
you knew when you're going to die,
내가 엄청나게 커다란 힘을 갖고
and when
있다는 것을 안다면,
if you knew that you have the greatest power,
내가 참 사랑하는 사람이 나를
and if you knew if one of your loved one would betray you eventually, then what would you do?
예수님은 발을 씻겨주기로
And Jesus decided to wash
유다의
the
발까지,
feet, even
자신의
Judah's
팔아버린
feet,
유다의 발까지도.
the one who would betray and sell him.
여러분, 유다가 예수를 판다는 말의 의미가 무엇이죠?
What does it mean that Judas is going to sell Jesus?
못되었다.
That means the Judas is not a true disciple.
실패 아니겠습니까?
And that means it's the failure of Jesus' work.
인간으로서는 참 상상하기 힘든.
So it'd be very difficult as a human being, as a teacher, you get betrayed by your student.
당하는 배신은 정말 이루 말할 수
It is going to hurt so bad when you get betrayed by a loved one.
근데 여러분 사실요. 예수님은
But in fact,
처음부터 당신을 팔
Jesus knew from the beginning that Judas would choose to do that. John 6:64, and it says, "For Jesus had known from the beginning which of them did not believe and who would betray him."
팔자가 누구인지를 알겠다라고 하는 그 이야기. 이 팔자라는
And from John 13 today, where it says Jesus knew about Judas, Jesus knew about who would betray Jesus.
그러니까 예수님은
And that means
처음부터 자신을 누가 팔지를 알고 계셨고 이제
Jesus knew who would betray him from the beginning. And he knew that it's about the time.
내 발을 씻어주고
But still, Jesus came and washed his feet.
끝까지 사랑하는.
And the Bible describes it as he loved
여러분,
to the
마지막까지
end.
사랑한다는 것은요. 단순히 시간적인 끝을 말하는 것이
And when it's saying he loved to the end, it's not just meaning about the time being.
여러분 어떻게 이것이 가능할까요?
How is that possible?
성경 공부를 하다 보면 청년들이
When I give Bible studies to the youth,
하나님이 내 미래를
they often ask this question. If God knows my future, then is my fate already decided, isn't it?
여러분 어떻게 생각하세요?
What do you think?
하나님이 구원받을 사람과 구원받지 못할 사람을 정해놨다.
Do you think God already decided who's going to be saved and who's not?
그렇게 믿는 사람들이 있습니다.
There are often people who believe in
어떻게
that.
믿냐면 하나님이 미리 다 알고 계시다.
Those people
생각하고 믿고 있어요.
think the God knows everything, so everything is already decided.
다 알고 있으면 그러면 우리의 운명 정해진 것 아니에요?
So isn't that, if God knows everything, then isn't our fate already decided?
내가 지금 아무리 하나님을 만나려고 해도
Even if I try to get to know Jesus now, and if my future is away from Him, then all my effort and time that I put in now to get to know Jesus, isn't it all meaningless?
이렇게 질문하게 된다는 거예요.
They can ask this question.
근데 이런 질문을 가지고 있는 오늘의 독자들에게 예수님이 뭐라고 대답하셨냐면
And yet, Jesus answered these questions.
사랑,
He answered the question with love.
질문이 있죠.
There's a question.
여러분, 예수님은 유다가 자신을
So did Jesus
팔았음에도 사랑하신 것.
Jesus loved Judas although he knew Judas would betray him?
여러분, 예수님이 하시는 행동을 잘 보면요.
So if you look carefully at what Jesus did,
사랑하는 것이 아니에요.
we can tell it is not that Jesus loved Judas although he knew what would happen.
마치 배신할 것을 모르는 것처럼.
So he loved like he didn't know that Judas would betray him.
사랑하시는가? 마치 배신할 것을 모르는
So Jesus loved Judas like he didn't know that Judas would betray him.
계획을
Because often humans change their plan if they know the result in advance.
제가 마라톤 대회를 한번 나갔다고 생각해 보세요.
Let's say I'm participating in marathon, and I've never run in marathon. I'm not a good runner,
마라톤 대회를 나갔어요.
but I participated it. Is there any chance that I would win the race?
벌써부터 신장 하나 떼놓고 그거 뛴다고 막 이렇게 생각하실 수도 있겠죠?
I don't even have one kidney now.
결과가 뻔히 정해져 있는 게 확실해요. 그러면 인간은 어떻게 하냐면
So when human knows that the result
1등은 못 하니까
is for sure, then they change their plan.
2를 두자.
So they, because I can't win the race, so then we just aim for just finishing the run.
그것이 인간이에요.
That's what humans do. They just change their plans if they know what's going to happen.
예수님의 모습은요.
But yet Jesus,
때문에 계획을 바꾼 것이 아니에요.
it's not that he knew the result, so he changed the plan.
가능성은 어차피
So
제로예요.
Jesus ran the marathon with the aiming of the winning the race, even though there's a zero chance of it.
끝까지 사랑하시기로 선택한 거예요.
So Jesus chose to love
그의
us to the
선택은
end.
구원받을 것이지만 예수님의 선택은 여전히 그의 구원을 위해 계속 앞으로 나아가고 있는 거예요.
Judas would betray him, but he chose to love him like he doesn't know.
너 날 배신할 때가 되었지. 너 그럴 줄 알았어. 하고 예상했던 일로 받아들이신 것이
And
아니라
Jesus didn't think, hey, Judas, I already knew that you would betray me
여전히 유다가
and try to
잃어버릴
protect
것을 마음 아파하면서
himself from being
그
hurt.
선택을 안 하기를
But Jesus is with the mindset that he is sad about losing Judas and hoping for Judas not to do that, although he already knew he would betray.
시대 소망은 상황이 될 수 있겠죠.
In Desire of Age, 645, the disciples knew nothing of the purpose of Judas. Jesus alone could read his secret, yet he did not expose him.
그의 영혼을
Jesus hungered for his soul.
그분은 운명 지어진
He
도성
felt for him such a burden as for Jerusalem when he wept over the doomed city. His heart was crying,
내가 너를 버릴 수 있을까?
how can I give thee up?
그 사랑에 강건하는 능력.
The constraining power of that love was felt
너는
by
그럴 줄
Judas.
알았어, 이 배신이라고 하는
Jesus is not saying, I already knew it, you betrayer, but he's still washing his feet, saying, I cannot leave you.
너 어떻게 나를 버려? 하면서 이렇게 막 발을 씻어주는 게 아니라
It's not that he has this
너를 버려
anger knowing we would betray,
하면서 나를
but he still wants us to
여러분 끝까지
love him and come back. That's what it means to love someone to the end.
정말 간절한 마음으로 모든 영혼 중 누구 하나 놓치고 싶지 않은 마음으로 그 영혼의 마지막까지 끝까지 사랑하는
And that means with a sincere heart, with the mindset that you don't want to lose any spirit. It is a loving a spiritual being to his or her end.
하나님의 시의 영역.
In fact, it's in the territory of God's mystery that we cannot understand. It's because God transcends space and time.
하고 가늠할 수
We cannot measure it with our cognitive ability.
인간의 직관이라는 것.
Because human intuition is just far away from it.
그러나 종종
However,
땅에
we can often experience something very similar to this around us.
형상이 있기 때문에 우리는 우리 일상
And we have his form in us.
예수님의 사랑 같은 모습 경험할 수
And sometimes we can experience that when we have
정말로 참 사랑을
a
할 수.
true love.
아이가 아파서 거의 다 죽어갈
So when your child is sick and almost dying,
그럼 둘째를
you don't think, hey, it's time to plan a second child.
절대로 안 되는 것처럼
And parents only think about their first child at that moment. They don't think about other options.
옵션이 생길 수도
There may be other options later,
생각 안 해요.
but they don't think about it at that moment.
하나님이 지구가 죄로 오염되었을 때
So God
그럼 새로 하나
did not think that when the earth was polluted with sin, oh well, I'll just make a new one. He didn't think that. And that's not because God does not have the ability to create new ones,
사랑은
but because
다른 옵션을
that is how the love is.
결과가 정해졌다라
So
그래서
the love is not thinking of other options and changing plans just because the outcome has been decided.
전지하심을 우리가 생각할 때
When we think about God's endless ability,
능력으로 바라보면
if we look at it with our limited view, we get
우리의
confused
마음이 하나님의 마음에 닿지 않기 때문에
because our mind doesn't touch God's
전지전능하신
mind.
하나님께서 도대체 무엇을
So we must carefully look at what the Almighty did.
전지전능하신 하나님이 뭐를 하셨나?
What did He do?
배신하고 실패할 우리조차
It is to continuously love us
사랑하신
even though we will betray
전지전능하신
and fail. That's what the Almighty did.
그리고 이 아침에 마음 한편 상해봅니다. 정말 어떤 배신 때문에 내 행동에 변화가 생긴
And I hope this morning that my behavior will not change because of some kind of betrayal,
그 사람은
but that I will still be able to love. And that people would be really happy person.
너희가 그것을 알고 행하면
On verse 17, now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them.
우리에게 행하신 예수님이 계셔서 여러분 우리는 이미 행복한 자예요.
And we are already a happy person because Jesus did that for
우리가
us.
정말 이것을 알고 행할 때
But when we really know this and we can
행할 수 있을 때
follow the same,
하나님이 그때
God is inviting us to do that.
우리는 이제 인간의 직관으로는 이해할 수 없는 크신 사랑을 마음에
We
받아들이고 그것을
want to receive the love that we cannot understand,
용서하는 것이 아니라
and we want to follow His example.
무너질지라도 용서하고 사랑하려는 거예요.
Although if it's not right
서로의 발을
and things not go right,
예수님의
we
사랑이
want to forgive and we want to love.
되는 것입니다. 이제 우리가 회종 예식을 하려는데요.
And we're going to do a communion service.
풍만찬 예식이라 하면 회종 예식과 풍만찬 예식.
So the communion service is washing the feet
보통 흔히들 이야기하죠.
and also eating the bread and the blood.
를 받은 사람들이 참여하는 것이다.
And we often think it is for the one who is baptized.
그리고 성경의 이야기를 살펴보아도 정말 정확하게 침례
But if we look at the Bible and all the stories, it doesn't say that people who baptize only will be able to participate.
오늘 이 예식을 통해서 하나님을 만나려고 하는 사람, 오늘 이 말씀
Everyone who wants to
하나님의
meet
사랑을
Jesus
조금이라도 느낀 사람,
through this service,
그 사람들 모두가 다 예식에
they can all
참여할 수 있습니다.
participate.
그러니 여러분 예식에 참여하시면서 하나님의 사랑을 기억하고자
So please try to remember that love of Jesus
네,
when you participate.
집사님의 안내에 따라
And now we will move for the service.
각자 일어나셔서
So let's stand up
식당으로 이동하시겠습니다.
and we'll move to the fellowship hall.